Friday, the 28th of August, the new big game in this world, Fall Guys, hosted their first Twitch rivals, and it's safe to say it was a success, breaking 700,000 viewers on Twitch, and the viewers and players had a lot of fun. Another new game in this world is the new release of Trackmania. So, is it possible to host Twitch rivals in Trackmania? And if so, what would be the consequences for the game Trackmania? And if so, what streamers should play and be invited to the Twitch rivals Trackmania? I have been vocal about this being a good opportunity for Trackmania since even before the release, but also after the release. But another guy who mentioned this in an interview I did with him was one of the best players of all time. He is also the most known streamer in Trackmania, that being Spam. He mentioned that this is a perfect opportunity for Trackmania and it would be fun to watch even for a veteran like him.
I actually thought about this in my last stream to organize or write a document and send it over to Twitch or Omar about a Twitch rifles where all of the 16 TMGL players gets paired up with a streamer, and it's basically a duo tournament. And I don't know, I think it would be so fun to see like every single TMGL player having a casual streamer under their wings and just play a tournament against each other. I think it could be a nice thing, but yeah, I didn't start writing it yet, so it's just an idea. But yeah, I think the idea is really good, and I think it could be like actually really entertaining because we've seen what ZeratoR can do with Trackmania, entertaining. So yeah, I think it could be good and would be really fun to watch and do as well.
So why do I think it should be implemented into Trackmania? Why do I think Twitch rivals would be a good thing? Well, if you recall correctly, and if you followed the release of Trackmania, the release and the first weeks of this game was successful. We had big numbers, we had big streamers, we peaked at 150,000 viewers. We had the biggest streamers like XQC, sodapoppin and LIRIK streaming it. We had them actually playing against each other in a 1 versus 1. And it's safe to say they had fun, the viewers had fun, so all parts had fun during the first weeks. But since then, the hype has died out, the big streamers are not streaming it anymore, and the state of this new Trackmania game is compared to the previous release of Trackmania, that being Trackmania 2 Stadium. If you host Twitch rivals, you would bring back some of the hype, but more importantly, you will also market it more to a new audience. If you don't know Trackmania, Trackmania is really big in France, but outside of France it's rather small, and it's somewhat non-existent in North America, South America and Asia, at least in the esport scene. If you have North American streamers, if you have maybe some streamers from South America and Asia, well, then you target that audience and potentially help the game grow in those regions. But more importantly than just marketing, this would also show the fans that sees this that Trackmania is more than a campaign. Trackmania is more than 25 tracks built by the game developers themselves. If you watch XQC, if you watch LIRIK, if you watch sodapoppin, most of the time they spent in this game was playing the campaign maps and trying to get the outer medal. Besides that, they didn't really compete in any other formats in Trackmania simply because it's hard to find. So I don't blame them for doing it, it's simply not their fault. If you have all the players playing in rounds mode instead of time attack, you then have all the players starting at the same time, and it's the first to the finish line that wins that round. Imagine how much fun it would be to have them maybe on voice with each other, XQC, LIRIK, maybe someone else, maybe trying to shit talk each other, maybe trying to boost each other up, having some cheering moment, because it's really easy to see who won it round. Well, the guy who crossed the finish line first is the winner. Then you would show the fans of XQC, LIRIK and the other big streamers that this is a competitive format in Trackmania. Maybe then you would recruit them as potential new fans that then would actually watch the esports side of Trackmania. Because the fans of those big streamers, they have seen Trackmania, but they haven't seen the esports side of Trackmania. So maybe they think that also Trackmania is just 25 campaign maps and it's just time attack, when they really miss out on what is, in my eyes, the most fun thing to watch, and that is the esports side and the competitive format Trackmania actually has to offer. But then, who should play and who should be invited into the first ever Twitch rivals in Trackmania? Well, I have already mentioned XQC, LIRIK, and sodapoppin bringing in big numbers. They already had fun, the fans of them already had fun. So I think they would be likely to say yes, simply because they know the game, they know that, okay, we had fun, we can try it out, and if we don't have fun with it, well, then we call it a day. Other names, I would mention a guy like Ludwig. He streamed also Trackmania during the release. He's a really entertaining streamer to watch. He's good. He has a hilarious reaction. So I would love to see him in a close battle where it's decided between some hundreds if he lose or win the round. Other names, a guy like Circa, who is big in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is area and a country where Trackmania has been somewhat big in the past, but now it's not really big. So having him and maybe some other guys from the Sidemen playing it would be good for Trackmania. It would be good for UK and then also good for Circa. Then I mentioned streamers that has played it. Maybe some streamers that haven't played it could potentially play it. A guy like Shroud, maybe. A guy like Dr. Lupo, maybe. Who knows? But a competition like this where the streamers know that, okay, it's a competitive format, I'm gonna play against other streamers that are not pro, so I maybe have a chance if I train, then they are more likely to say yes instead of, should we test out Trackmania where we doesn't really know what to expect. Also, a guy like Lando Norris who streamed this game before it was released, and since then, at least in my, if my info serves me correctly, he haven't played it since then, so having him play it in a competitive format would also be hilarious, and maybe his fans from the Formula 1 would then also become a bigger fan of Trackmania. What I mentioned in the start is that this game is big in France. Then also the biggest streamers in this game are from France. They are dominating the viewing numbers. The biggest streamers by far is ZeratoR. In July he peaked at 140,000 viewers. You also have a guy like Sardoche who is really big. Etoile, Domingo, Kameto. So the French scene is really big. Should the French streamers then be invited to Twitch rivals? Yes, but also no. By yes, sure, it will bring more numbers into Twitch rivals, it will please the French audience, but no, maybe because a guy like ZeratoR, a guy like Sardoche, would maybe simply be too good to actually battle against these new players of Trackmania. For us who are hardcore fans of this game, we maybe view them as bad, but if you compare ZeratoR and Sardoche to new players, they would actually be one of the better ones. ZeratoR has played in a LAN event called the La Catalan. 16 players showed up. He placed 5th. So he can beat some Trackmania players. He can actually beat some unexperienced players. Sardoche himself said in an interview with me that if he plays against XQC, it wouldn't even be fun. It wouldn't even be close because Sardoche would wreck him. So maybe not have ZeratoR and Sardoche in simply because they are too experienced. They are maybe too good. But later on, maybe bring them in if this ends up having more additions and the other players starts to play more and more Trackmania. But I would actually like to see some French streamers streaming it simply because you would like to please the French audience, and that is the biggest audience in Trackmania. So having a guy like maybe Kameto, who is somewhat new to the scene, he just started hosting competitions, he just signed Bren, who is one of the best players, to his team. So maybe he would be a perfect fit. I have no idea about his skill level, so maybe he's even better than ZeratoR and Sardoche. Maybe he's horrendously bad. Well, we don't know, and maybe that's fun because you don't really know how it would face up against XQC, LIRIK, and the others. Maybe another guy like Domingo, I haven't seen him playing much Trackmania. I have only seen him casting, so I know he has experience with Trackmania, and then his fans are known to Trackmania, they are known to the competitive scene, so maybe him as well. So Kameto and Domingo could be the French representative, or maybe some other French big streamers that is playing some of the CLAN events. I'm not really into the French scene, but having a guy who isn't really that experienced in Trackmania would be the best for the overall competition, because at the end of the day, you want all of the players and all of the streamers who signs up to be on somewhat of an equal level, so the matches ends up being most fun, because the more fun the tournament ends up being, the better it is for the game. So, is this gonna happen? I have my doubts. For every day that passed, I have more and more, or less and less, hope that this actually will take place. I think the best chance would actually be to do it once the game was out, once the streamers was actually doing it, but that chance is already gone, and now we just have to look forward and see that maybe this can be a potential in the future. Maybe now that we have the most prestigious tournament in Trackmania Grand League coming up, maybe you can try to organize it next to it. Maybe the players and streamers would then play on a Trackmania Grand League map, so if the fans that watch Twitch Rivals wants to see how the really best players are performing on them, well, they can, and then they can compare the sort of new people in Trackmania to the really, really best of the best. What do you think of it? Do you think it's gonna happen? If so, what do you think the consequences is gonna be? Do you have any streamers that you want to see playing Twitch Rivals? And if so, make sure to mention who, and make sure to mention who is your favorite to win the hypothetical Twitch Rivals Trackmania.